I never thought I'd be the guy who gets blindsided like this, but here I am. My name's Mark, and I've been with Lisa for about 8 years now. We met in college, and I really thought we had something solid: good job, a nice house, a couple of dogs. The kind of life you think is stable, predictable. But lately, things felt off. Small stuff. She'd be rude more often, snapping at me for no reason, or cancel plans last minute. I just figured she was stressed at work or maybe tired, but I guess I should have known better. It all started about 2 months ago. Lisa signed up for this sobriety group, which I supported because I know she's had her struggles. She was proud of her recovery and always talked about how important her meetings were to her. I went to a few with her, just to support her, and I genuinely wanted her to succeed. But I started noticing things that didn't quite add up. She'd get weirdly defensive when I asked about her meetings or who she was talking to afterward. She'd say stuff like, "It's none of your business," or "You're just paranoid." Brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just being defensive because I was prying too much. Then came the day she received her 5-year sobriety chip. It was supposed to be a big deal, and I was genuinely proud of her. The celebration was supposed to be small, just a few people from her group, but I was there. I watched her walk up to the stage, her face glowing, and she looked happy. Afterward, everyone was supposed to go out for drinks, but Lisa told me she'd be staying late to help clean up at the community center. I stayed behind, feeling a little proud, thinking she was finally really committed this time. But that's when I saw her. Or more accurately, I saw who she was with. It wasn't just a volunteer or a fellow group member. It was her sponsor, a guy named Kevin. I'd heard her mention him a few times, but I never really paid much attention. Now I wish I had. They were in the storage room, and from where I was standing outside the door, I could hear muffled voices. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I quietly crept closer, trying. Listen. That's when I heard her moaning. Yeah, moaning. I froze. She was actually having sex with him, right there in the storage room while I was out front, proud of her achievement. My stomach dropped. My heart started pounding like I'd run a marathon. I couldn't believe it. The woman I trusted, the woman I loved, was cheating on me with her sponsor. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was there. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what I'd just seen. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Had she been lying about everything? The stories she told about her meetings, her support, her recovery, they were all fake. I don't know how long I stayed there listening, but it felt like hours. When I finally backed away, my legs felt like jelly. I was furious, heartbroken, and completely lost. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't know what to say or how I'd do it. That moment changed everything. I realized I'd been played for a fool, and I didn't know how to turn back from this. The woman I'd trusted with my heart, my life, had been sneaking around behind my back with a guy who was supposed to help her heal, not screw her in a storage closet. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't eat, sleep, or focus. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, that look she gave me, the way she lied about her meetings and her journey. I kept replaying the scene in my head, trying to find some reason, some explanation that would make sense. But there was nothing, just betrayal, deep, gut-wrenching betrayal. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? Why did I believe she was truly trying? And most of all, how do I even begin to fix my shattered confidence? That's where I am now. Sitting here trying to put everything together, trying to figure out what to do next. I know I'll have to confront her, but I also know that's not going to be easy. She's a master manipulator, and I've seen her lie her way out of trouble before. But this time, I've got the evidence. And I'm not letting her get away with it, not without a fight. After discovering what I saw in that storage room, everything changed. I couldn't just pretend it didn't happen, even though I desperately wanted to. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was in knots. I kept replaying that scene over and over, her moaning, his hands on her, the way she looked when she thought no one was watching. It was like some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I wanted to scream, to shout, to do anything to get rid of the sick feeling in my gut. But I knew I had to keep it together, at least for now. I decided I'd confront her that evening. I needed answers, but I also knew from experience that Lisa was a damn good liar. She always had some excuse ready for everything. Still, I couldn't just sweep this under the rug. I had to hear it from her mouth. I waited until she got home, trying to act normal, but I could feel the tension building inside me. When she finally walked through the door, I was already sitting on the couch, my arms crossed, staring at her like she was some stranger. She looked surprised, maybe even a little annoyed that I was already waiting. "Hey," she said, tossing her purse on the table. "What's wrong? Why don't you tell me what you're doing with Kevin in that storage room last night?" I shot straight out, not bothering to hide my anger. She blinked, her eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about, Kevin? I told you I was helping to clean up. You saw me with him, but you don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you were just imagining things." My blood boiled. "Saw you. I stood outside that door listening to you moaning. Don't lie to me, Lisa, I saw everything." Her face twisted into a sneer. "Oh, so now you're spying on me? That's real mature, Mark. I wasn't doing anything wrong, I was just talking to him. You're making a big deal out of nothing." I felt my fists clench. "Nothing? You're screwing him in the storage room while I'm out celebrating your stupid chip. How long has this been going on? How many times have you lied to me?" She rolled her eyes. "You're overreacting. Honestly, I don't owe you explanations. Kevin's just a friend, okay? We're not having sex and you're imagining things because you're insecure. Maybe if you weren't so paranoid, you'd see that I'm actually trying to do better." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That bitch was so full of shit. She lied so smoothly, I almost wanted to believe her, but I knew better. I'd seen her true colors now, and she wasn't the woman I thought I married. She was manipulative, selfish, and clearly unfaithful. But I also knew I had to stay calm. If I lost my temper, she'd just spin it to her advantage. Instead, I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "This isn't just a one-time thing, Lisa. I saw what you were doing. I know you've been lying about everything, about your meetings, about your journey, and now I find out you're screwing your sponsor in the storage room where I thought you were trying to get your life together. You've been lying to me for months. How do you expect us to move forward after this?" She scoffed, crossing her arms. "You think I owe you some explanation? Maybe you should. Worry about your own issues instead of accusing me of stuff I didn't do. I don't have to explain myself to you." That's when I saw the real her, the bitchy, manipulative side that she's always kept hidden until now. She was good at twisting things, making herself the victim, and I knew that if I didn't lay down some boundaries, she'd keep doing this forever. But I also felt a pit deep inside me, a feeling I couldn't shake, heartbreak. I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Now I wasn't so sure anymore. All I knew was that I'd never felt so betrayed, so humiliated. I told her, "Don't bother denying it anymore. I've got the evidence and I'm done pretending I don't see who you really are. We need to talk seriously about what's next because I'm not going to live in some lie anymore." She just smirked and said, "Do whatever you want, Mark, but you're not going to control me." She turned on her heel and went to the bedroom, leaving me standing there, furious and exhausted at the same time. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what this all meant, how she'd been lying to me from the start about everything. The woman I loved had been cheating behind my back in the most disrespectful way possible. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach repeatedly, and part of me wondered if I'd ever feel normal again. I kept asking myself how I let it get this far, how I missed all the warning signs. But deep down, I knew I'd been naive, blind to her real personality. In the days that followed, I started gathering my thoughts. I knew I had to make some decisions, but I wasn't rushing into anything. I needed time to process, to think about what I wanted and what I deserved. I also knew I'd have to confront her again, probably more than once. But for now, I was just trying to keep everything together, even if inside I was falling apart. The next few days were the worst of my life. I went through every emotion possible: anger, betrayal, sadness, and a sick kind of heartbreak that I didn't even know was possible. I couldn't concentrate at work, couldn't sleep, and kept replaying that scene in the storage room over and over. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, that sneer on her face, the way she always lied so convincingly. It was like I was living in some twisted nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I knew I had to decide what to do next, but honestly, I felt paralyzed. Part of me wanted to confront her again, yell at her, scream at her for lying, cheating, and breaking everything we'd built. But another part of me just wanted to walk away and forget I ever loved her. I didn't want to be one of those guys who lets himself be manipulated, but I also didn't want to lose what little bit of hope I still clung to. I told myself I'd give it a day or two, but every hour that passed, the pain only grew worse. Finally, I decided I couldn't sit around waiting for her to come to me. I needed answers. So I sat her down that evening, trying to keep my voice steady. Lisa, I need to understand why you thought you could do this. Why you felt you had to cheat on me, especially after everything you said about your sobriety and how much this meant to you. She looked annoyed, like I was bothering her. Honestly, Mark, I don't owe you anything. I told you I was trying to get better, but maybe you're too blind to see that I'm doing my best. I don't need to justify myself to you. I clenched my fists. You don't get to just brush this off. You lied to me for months. You told me you were working on yourself, working on our relationship, but instead you were screwing your sponsor in the storage closet while I was celebrating your 5 years of sobriety. How could you lie to my face? Her eyes narrowed and she crossed her arms. I don't have to explain myself. I've made my choices and I won't apologize for them. Maybe if you weren't so insecure, you wouldn't be accusing me of stuff I didn't do. That was pure bullshit and I knew it. I was furious, but I also felt something else, disgust. Disgust that she could lie so easily, so convincingly, and act like she was the victim. I'd been pretty naive thinking she was trying to be a better person. All I saw now was that she was a master manipulator who'd been playing me from the start. I looked her in the eyes and said, "You can lie all you want, Lisa, but I saw what I saw, and I'm not going to pretend that this isn't the worst betrayal I've ever experienced. If you think I'm just going to forget this, you're dead wrong. I need some time to figure out what I want to do." Her face twisted into a sneer. "Whatever, Mark. I don't need your permission to do what I want. Just don't expect me to sit around and wait for you to figure your shit out. I have my own life to live." I was stunned. The woman I loved, the woman I thought was committed to her recovery, was now throwing her independence in my face while I was hurting, trying to piece together what was left of my dignity. I knew then that it was over, at least for the foreseeable future. There was no way I could trust her again, not after what I saw, not after the lies. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling like a complete idiot for ever trusting her. I kept asking myself how I didn't see this coming, how I missed all the signs. I remembered her little defensive fits, her excuses, her dismissive attitude whenever I tried to bring up her meetings. I realized I'd turned a blind eye for too long. I'd convinced myself she was trying, when really, she was just good at hiding who she really was. The next morning, I started packing a few things. Not because I was planning to leave right away, but because I wanted to be prepared. I needed space, clarity. I knew I couldn't stay in that house with her anymore, not after everything. I felt like I'd been punched repeatedly, and every part of me wanted to just run far away from this mess. But I also knew I owed it to myself to confront her one last time before making any final decisions. When she saw me packing, she rolled her eyes and snapped, "What are you doing now? Trying to leave because I didn't give you a reason to?" I looked at her, tired and angry all at once. "No, Lisa, I'm leaving because I can't stay here. And pretend this didn't happen. I need to get some space to think. I don't trust you anymore. And honestly, I don't even know if I want to stay married to someone who can lie to my face and cheat behind my back." Her expression didn't change. She just shrugged. "Fine, do whatever you want, but don't come crawling back when you realize you're better off without me." I didn't have a response. I just grabbed my bag and headed for the door. As I walked out, I felt a sense of emptiness in my chest, like I'd lost a big part of myself. The betrayal cut deep, and I knew I'd never see her the same way again. I'd loved her, believed in her, and now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish person who'd used me and discarded me like yesterday's trash. That realization hit hard, and I knew life would never be the same. The days that followed felt like some weird purgatory. I stayed with a friend for a little while, just to get some distance from the house, from her, from everything. Every time I was alone, I kept thinking about what I'd seen and what it meant. Honestly, I was pissed off, but beneath that, there was this deep, aching sadness I couldn't shake. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let her manipulate me for so long. The worst part was feeling like I'd become some fool, blind and naive, thinking she was on a journey to better herself when she was just lying straight to my face. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, though. I needed proof, something concrete that would force her to face what she'd done. So I started digging a little, not in a stalkerish way, but just enough to get the facts. I tracked her phone records, nothing too invasive, just enough to see who she was talking to. I wanted to catch her in a lie if I could. I also checked her social media, hoping she'd slip up somewhere. Turns out she had been secretly messaging Kevin, texts, photos, all kinds of stuff. No doubt about it anymore. She had been lying to me for months, and I felt sick every time I looked at her messages. The thing that really hit me hard was how cold I felt towards her now. She used to be the person I trusted with my life, and now I saw her as just another snake hiding in the grass. I'd been so blind, so trusting, and now I was paying the price. It wasn't just about the sex or the lies. It was about my entire view of her crumbling. I used to think she cared about her recovery and us, but now I knew she'd been using that as a cover-up for her selfishness. One night I decided I couldn't keep waiting around. I called her. Her voice was sarcastic and dismissive right from the start. "What do you want, Mark?" she said like I was bothering her. I took a breath. "I want to talk. I want to hear the truth from you. I know about the messages. I know what you've been doing with Kevin. Don't lie to me anymore. I deserve that much." For a split second she was silent. Then she snorted. "Wow, you really are a stalker, huh? You're crazy if you think I'm just going to spill my guts to you now." "Lisa," I said, voice low but firm. "You've already lied enough. I saw the messages. I saw how you use your sobriety as some kind of shield for cheating. I want to hear it from you. Are you really screwing him? Are you fucking him?" She hesitated, and I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end. Then she finally said, "Fine. Yeah, I've been fucking him. Happy now? I never loved you anyway. You're just a boring, controlling jerk." Hearing her admit it was like a punch in the gut, but at the same time I felt some strange relief. I finally had the truth. That betrayal had been eating me alive, and now I knew where I stood. She was a liar, a cheater, a user. But part of me was also stunned by how easily she could just spit out those words, how little remorse she showed. She was almost proud of the fact that she'd been screwing around behind my back. I told her, "Don't ever contact me again. I want nothing to do with you. I don't want to hear your lies or excuses. Just leave me alone." She hung up on me without a word. That was the last time I talked to her directly. Honestly, I felt a mix of rage and relief. Rage that she'd betrayed me so badly, and relief that I finally knew the truth. I could start moving on, even if it hurt like hell. I knew I'd have to face a lot of pain, but at least I wasn't living in some fantasy anymore. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. Over the next few days, I started making plans. I found a lawyer, began thinking about what separation or divorce might look like. I wasn't in any rush. I just needed to get myself out of that situation. I also started talking more openly with friends, trying to process everything. It was hard, but I realized I couldn't keep everything bottled up. I needed support, even if it was just from the people who cared about me. I also realized I couldn't let her ruin my mental health. I started exercising again, going for walks, trying to clear my head. I didn't want to be that guy who let some woman destroy him, but I also knew I needed to mourn the relationship, mourn what I'd lost and what could have been. It wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about losing my sense of security, my trust, in someone I thought was my partner for life. Honestly, I don't know what the future holds. I'm scared, angry, hurt, but also a little relieved. I was starting to see that I deserved better. I deserved someone who was honest, loyal, and respectful. And if Lisa didn't want to be that person, then I had to accept it and move forward. No matter how much it hurt now, I knew I'd come out of this stronger. I just had to keep reminding myself I was better off without that kind of betrayal hanging over me. The weeks that followed were a roller coaster. One day, I'd wake up feeling like I'd finally taken a breath after suffocating in all the betrayal. The next, I'd be hit with this overwhelming sense of loss and anger that was hard to shake. I kept telling myself I had to focus on moving forward, but honestly, some nights I'd lie awake replaying everything. Her lies, the sex in the storage room, The way she looked at him like he was some hero instead of the pathetic con man he was. I threw myself into work trying to keep my mind busy. I even started seeing a counselor, more for me than anything, to try and sort out my feelings. She told me things I already knew but didn't want to admit, that I deserved better, that I wasn't at fault for her choices, and that healing takes time. That was a hard pill to swallow. I'd spent years loving her, trusting her, and now I felt like I'd been punched in the face repeatedly. It was like I couldn't even recognize myself anymore. One day, I decided I needed closure. I reached out to her again, this time more calmly. I told her I wanted to talk, to understand why she did what she did, why she lied and cheated. Not because I wanted to get back with her, hell no, but because I needed to understand what happened inside her head. I needed to hear her say it out loud so I could start truly letting go. She agreed to meet. I remember walking into that little coffee shop, feeling nervous but also numb. She was already there, sitting with her arms crossed, her face painted with that familiar bitchy expression she always wore when she didn't want to admit she was wrong. We sat across from each other, and for a long moment neither of us said anything. Finally, she looked at me and sneered. "You really want to hear my side? Fine, I was bored. You're so damn predictable, Mark. You think just because I got sober I have to be some perfect little angel, please. I did what I wanted, how I wanted. Kevin was a distraction, and honestly, it felt good to feel alive again. Maybe I didn't love you anymore, maybe I did this because I was tired of pretending to be perfect. Doesn't matter." I felt a sick feeling in my stomach. Her words weren't what I wanted to hear, but at the same time it was like some weight had been lifted. She wasn't pretending anymore. She was admitting she didn't care about us or my feelings. She was just a selfish girl who wanted what she wanted, no matter who she hurt. I looked at her and said, "You're right. It doesn't matter if you loved me or not. You threw everything away for your own selfish pleasure. You lied, cheated, and used our relationship as some game you played with Kevin. I hope you're happy with yourself because I sure as hell am not." Her face twisted into a nasty smirk. "Whatever. You're just mad because I don't want to be controlled by some boring, insecure bastard anyway. I don't need you, Mark. I can do just fine without your stupid rules and your guilt trips." That was the moment I realized I'd been holding on to hope that she'd change, that she'd come back and admit she was wrong, but she never would. She was too busy being the selfish bitch she'd always been. I knew then I had to cut ties for good. I couldn't keep chasing a ghost of a relationship that was already dead. I told her, "You know what? I don't want to see you again. I don't want to hear your lies, just leave me alone. I'm done with this circus." And I meant every word. I got up and left that coffee shop feeling lighter in some ways, but also hollowed out in others. It hurt knowing I'd lost someone I once loved so much, but I also felt a strange sense of relief, like I'd finally taken the first real step toward healing. In the days that followed, I started focusing on myself. I reconnected with old friends, picked up hobbies I'd neglected, and just tried to rebuild my life from scratch. I knew the pain wouldn't go away overnight, but I also knew I had to keep moving forward, no matter how much it stung. I promised myself I wouldn't let her betrayal define me. I'd learn from it, grow stronger, and find someone who deserved my trust. I realized I'd been holding on to a hope that wasn't real, clinging to a fragile dream of a life with her that was never going to happen. The betrayal had shattered that dream into a million pieces, but slowly, I was starting to pick them up and piece my life back together. It wasn't easy, and it still hurts sometimes. But I know I'll be okay. I have to be. Because I finally see that I deserve better than someone who can lie so easily, cheat so blatantly, and walk away like it's no big deal. I've learned that much. And honestly, that's probably the only thing that's gotten me through this so far. It's been a long road from that first moment of betrayal to this point, and honestly, I'm still trying to piece everything together inside my head. Some days are better than others. Some days I look in the mirror and don't even recognize the guy staring back at me. But I've learned a lot through all this, about trust, about myself, and about what I deserve. One thing I know for sure is that I was blind for a long time. I ignored the small signs, justified her behavior, told myself she was on some kind of journey. Honestly, I thought I was doing the right thing by supporting her, by believing she was trying to change. But that was just a way of avoiding the harsh truth. The truth was that she never really wanted the change. She wanted her freedom, her selfish pleasure, and she used her recovery as a mask to hide her real intentions. I won't lie, I still feel the pain, the sting of betrayal every now and then. But I also feel a strange sense of relief, like I finally exhaled after holding my breath for too long. I don't hate her. I don't even really feel anger anymore, just a quiet acceptance that I deserve better. I deserve someone who respects me, who values honesty and loyalty, and who doesn't see me as some obstacle to their own selfish needs. Looking back, I realize I should have seen the signs earlier. The defensiveness, the lying about her meetings, the dismissive attitude when I tried to talk to her about her sobriety. But I guess I was too in love, too naive to want to believe she was capable of hurting me like this. Now I see clearly, and I'm glad I found out the truth before I invested any more of myself into a relationship built on lies. Life has to go on. I've come to accept that sometimes people change in ways you never expected, and often it's for the worse. But I also believe that I've grown from this experience. I'm more cautious now, more aware of what I will and won't tolerate. I've learned that I don't have to accept betrayal, that I don't have to settle for someone who doesn't appreciate me. And most importantly, I've learned that healing begins when you finally admit the truth to yourself. So, here. I am a different man than I was a few months ago. Still healing, still figuring out what's next. But I know one thing for sure, I won't let this break me. I'll carry the lessons, the scars, and the strength forward. I'll rebuild my life the way I want it, without lies, without betrayal, and with a renewed sense of self-respect. Because in the end, that's all anyone really needs to start over. Honesty, integrity, and the courage to walk away from what doesn't serve you. And that's what I choose to do. I'm finally free.